Hi, and welcome back to a new career episode on this channel. While the last videos focused on computer science areas, this one is gonna take a new perspective and look at a consultancy and marketing job. My good friend Victor agreed to share his experience and how he chose his placement at Kantar Work Panel and what he learned from it, how he tackled the job, how he felt when he got his first client, and what he was left for after finishing this placement. So if you want to see all of these things and even how to get a career in consultancy or marketing or business, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Steven Presents.
Hi, my name is Victor. I'm from Bucharest. I'm 22 years old. I was a student in Manchester Business School. I've just finished. It's been a great journey. I've been a student here for 4 years, including 1 year being my placement here, which we're going to be talking about today.
What have you been studying in the past 4 years?
So my degree is called Bachelor in Sciences Management with International Business Economics. That's a very pompous name for it, but what it actually is a mixture of organizational studies, management, economics, and some finances. And putting this all together, it allows you to have a sense through the whole spectrum of business world.
In your placement year, you did a different thing rather than business or finance. You did consultancy, am I right?
So basically, I've done consultancy in marketing research for a firm called Kantar Work Panel. What I had basically to do is that I had an access to the biggest data set of marketing data that is in UK. And we were a company that was providing consultancy for other manufacturers. I was specifically working in health and beauty, so I worked with companies such as Bayersdorf, which produces Nivea, GSK, which is a big pharma company, Johnson & Johnson, these kind of big names. And basically, my job was in understanding what are the consumer preferring, coming back to them, and answering their business questions. So for instance, one concrete example to understand, let's say J&J, Johnson & Johnson, wants to push their baby shampoo to the Scotland, right? What they need to do the mothers there prefer a bigger bottle, or they do prefer a pack with multiple smaller bottles? What's the price point they want? All of this stuff I had to understand the data, compile some Excel formulas and understand what's the trend, and then from that point put them into a very visual presentation like a PowerPoint, which I had to take to a client and explain and work through them.
So basically create a strategy for a targeted audience that was given to you or was asked for by your main client.
Yeah, so the client came with a brief. It was basically 1, 2, 3 business questions. We had to take the information from our data sets, try to resolve their question, and then come with some recommendations how they could pursue their strategy.
Did you use any skill that you learned in university?
Yeah, I definitely used loads of skills from my university time. Basically, what I've done is actually discovering trends in markets. I've worked particularly in health and beauty, so I was working with pharmaceutical companies and with cosmetics. So I was trying to understand the trends that are happening in Great Britain and Scotland. And it's been quite great because the university allowed me to have those tools to understand what I was doing in terms of, let's say, a penetration of a product, or how frequent is that bought, or those key product indicators helped me to understand better my job. Yeah, definitely.
How did you get this placement here? What was the process for preparing yourself for an interview, or the applying steps and everything?
Definitely, that's quite of a long journey, because as every second year student, you really want your placement, so you start by applying in loads of places, tens if not hundreds of places. I've done the same, to be honest. I've selected not really the companies that I was maybe targeting, but I was selecting the job descriptions that I thought were gonna fit me better, and I think that's a very good starting point. So I've applied to several companies, and Kantar Work Panel was one of them. With them in particular, I had I believe a 4-step interview with them. So it was a screening process, which I had to upload my CV and have like a brief description of why I wanted a job. Afterwards, there were a number of practical tests, which involved natural communication, cognitive tests, but as well business and mathematical tests. The third step was an interview, and I believe that was the most daunting process I think I faced in my recruitment processes, because it's always overwhelming to be talking with someone who's trying to determine if you are going to be hired or not. So that's definitely something. It was a bit challenging, I'd say. The process itself wasn't that hard, I guess, because I've received. So my interview was formulated into 3 pieces. First of all was my university and my background. Secondly, it was more generally about how I see the business world in 21st century. And the third one was me presenting a set of slides that I had to prepare beforehand coming there, because they gave me some marketing questions and some data, and I had to like discover the trends. It was quite hard at the moment because I was quite scared, but in hindsight, it was a very good tool for them to understand if I can have that kind of skill to understand trends in the market. That was my third part of the interview, my third part of the application process. The last one was the final HR interview, talking about practicalities and about different aspects of my jobs.
That sounds like a really long journey. How did you manage to prepare for that? Do you have any specific trick for being able to understand and prepare for a certain task?
Definitely, I mean, there are loads of tricks that you can make use of when trying to apply to a job. Definitely, you can Google them and you'll find loads of recommendations. One that I found on my own, and I believe it's very valuable, is that you should not be concerned if you're trying to ask for help. What I mean by that is that I've had, as I've said before, a theoretical part when I have to understand some marketing data, and I wasn't feeling like 100% sure on myself. And what I've done is I've actually contacted my marketing professor at the university, and I've managed to have like a private session with him when I've discussed my findings on the data, and he provided some feedback and some further input. And I believe that made a difference, because when the interview day came, I actually had a bit of a head start because I was actually helped by a professor, and I believe that really helped me landing the job. So definitely not being shy to like seek for a second opinion or some help will definitely help you in I don't know, having better prospects in getting a job.
Yeah, it's great that you access the university resources. Most of the people don't actually know that those exist or they're accessible.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I think you already noticed it, but they are there. The resources are there, but you have to want to make use of them.
Yeah.
They won't come to you. So if you want to make use of them, they are there. But if otherwise, you'll have no other difference. So definitely keep in mind, make use of the resources they offer, but they won't come to you. You have to come to them.
What about the on-site marketing task that you had to prepare? Did you have any training or experience beforehand with that specific way the task is given and how much time you have and everything?
So I received my questions in my data set, I believe 1 week prior to the interview, so I had plenty of time to get prepared. I wasn't really familiar with the type of data because I wasn't really exposed to like real data, real business world data, and that felt maybe a bit unnatural for me to like really understand them. But if you spend time on them and try to look like every single word on the internet and see what's the use of them in like business, you'll get to understand what the data is telling you. So it might look overwhelming at the beginning, but if you have like a consistent, systematic approach, you can do basically everything. Yeah, you have enough resources to do that on your own. So for instance, I was doing a FMCG, which stands for fast moving consumer good marketing, and you have loads of resources focusing on this type of like products. So that would help you to like get better prepared for interview, because you don't want to be too generic. You want to be quite focused on their business as a whole, not in the, I don't know, the marketing area in general. So it's definitely helpful to like get your information from multiple sources. Yeah,
and read a lot about specific examples, put them into context, and
I couldn't put it myself better. Exactly, that's the idea. Yeah, exactly.
Was there any trick or specific thing that you done with your CV or cover letter?
No, actually I have two things. One of them, I've asked a lot of people to give me feedback on my CV, starting from my uncle to my university mates, everybody who was willing to have 10 minutes to have a read through my CV, because everybody has a different opinion and you can learn from them. That's one. And secondly, I've used our career center at university, and I've made a booking for half an hour with one of the consultants, and he had like a read through my CV and proposed some points where I could improve my CV to make it more appealing to the recruitment process as a whole. So it's definitely a mixture of making use of what you have at hand.
And how did it feel, even though you worked a lot and you had good marks and you studied, how did it feel to get rejected from the first or second or third job that you applied?
Oh yeah, that's a hard one, I guess, because you're always feeling that you're the best and you're always trying to convince yourself that you're great and you're gonna land that job offer. But in reality, it's a very tight competition, and you really have to like be confident in yourself, and the confidence you can show it by being able to accept rejection and learn from them. I would say it's normal to like have rejections. That's part of the recruitment process, and it's normal. And then encourage you just to like keep your head up and like consistently like follow through and like follow your dream and follow your application purpose and move on, irrespective of how many rejections you face.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice actually. So you should follow this. Everyone gets rejected. I myself got rejected like from tens.
Yeah, who doesn't? I mean, who
yeah,
doesn't?
everybody's part of the process, but it's frustrating.
It definitely is. It definitely is, because you're thinking of the center of the world, and you've been your best in your high school class, and you're being the very great university, and then when you're applying to a job, you're finding out that there are like loads of great people out there, and maybe you're great at one thing, but the company is looking for maybe something different. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you have to understand what's happened with you and what you can take from that experience and moving on to the next one.
Yeah. Did you ask for feedback?
Yeah, I did actually. The person who was in charge of like recruiting the placement students was one of my bosses, and I asked him why did he choose me from all those people, and what he basically told me is that they're looking for two aspects. First of all, understanding the business and understanding, like really wanting to work there and understanding what the business is doing. And secondly, being a team player. I mean, this is like, you hear this everywhere, but actually being the team player, having those social skills and being able to be available for the team is important, and they are looking for this, because in terms of like your theoretical background, you can learn that, but in terms of how are you as a person and how you can make an impact on your team, that's something they're really looking forward.
And how can you achieve these two things?
So I'd say, first of all, when you're going to an interview, really do your like homework, really understanding what they are doing. It's a proper advantage, because believe it or not, the majority of people do not actually know what the firm is doing. And being a team player, you just need to emphasize that you're looking forward to work with a team of people, that you have past experience that showcase that you are a good player, and that you really believe that a team is more powerful than an individual, because we live in a era, or we live in a culture where the people that are working in a company are specialized on one thing, and by the unity of a team you can actually like advance forward, and this is what they're looking for. So being able to like be yourself and put yourself forward in a team is one of the main things that you should like point in your interviews, I say.
Why did you decide to do a placement year instead of either going for a master's or going on an exchange year, everything else?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. So I applied for a 3-year course when I've arrived in UK, so I wasn't having either a year abroad or an placement. But then I gave a bit of thought to this idea of maybe having a year abroad, maybe having a placement, and I've tried to view myself after finishing my university, what I want to do with my career path, because even though if we accept this or not, we go to university to start a career, right? So in my case, business is so vast, I'm not sure what I want to go, So what I've said is okay, let's take a year and let's see if a year in this industry will actually answer my questions, because maybe this industry is where I would love to work for my entire career, or maybe exactly the opposite, it's an industry where I will never like to work again. But having this experience prior to actually finishing your university and going to your career path, I believe is a big head start. Actually motivated me to go for a placement. The fact that I could actually rule out or choose something for my career path before starting it.
Yeah, you're saving some years, and also you understand better what you want to do and the whole industry, either if you will work in a corporation or you work in a small company or you'll work on your own projects.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about the concept of fail fast, so try to fail fast, try to see if that works for you, if not move on, and this helps a lot in choosing your correct career path, I guess.
How did it feel when you got your first client?
Well, that was very overwhelming, to be honest. So I've only had one client on my own. I worked on a portfolio of clients with my team, but I was specifically responsible for one client, which is Burt's Bees. And it was quite great. Burt's Bees, they're a rather small company, and they make lip care, lip balm actually, that's their main product. And I had to understand the market of lip balm. Me, for instance, I have never used lip balm in my life, so it was quite hard to get recommendations for a multinational company on lip balm, but I've understood it, and it was definitely a nice learning curve for me. But what I would say is that when I had my first client, the very important moment in my relationship with them was my first when I go into their site and have a visit, because everything is so new and everyone is so corporate and professional, and you're the master of data and you have to really make a case, and you can easily get overwhelmed by emotions, easily. And for me it was super hard because I was quite stressed. My boss was there with me, and he was also evaluating me on how I was doing with the client, so it's definitely stressful. But on the other hand, I've really learned how to manage stress and how to make connections with people in a professional environment, and that's definitely something that I'm gonna use forward in my life, even if it's in a corporate career path and an entrepreneurial career path. Both of them really engage with person-to-person interaction, and I believe this is one of the hardest things to do, I guess.
To go and meet
to go into the meetings and meet new people in a professional context and really try to sell your products or make them understand why are your products useful to them, and then deliver your products the way you've described them prior. All of these steps are very unique in their way, and every step comes with a set of skills that you believe it or not, you don't actually think of them before actually happening to you. So for instance, when you're trying to talk with a new client, you really should know how to have that commercial status with them. But when you have a very established relationship with an older client, you need to be aware of what are their budgets or what are the limitations, to be able to have a relationship with a client.
Yeah, so it's a lot of adapting, but it's a great experience. At the end of the day, you now know how to do these things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the best experiences I could ever had in my life, because being in a consultancy area where you have to chat with your clients, have to deliver your products, and on the other hand you have to actually make the product, because you are making the let's say for instance you are making the visualization for the data they want to see. Every single step of this makes you understand that business is working as a whole, and that business at the end of the day it's a person-to-person interaction rather than a numbers science, you know.
Yeah, it seems like you really loved it there. It seems like you learned a lot. You're really excited when you're talking about it. What do you want to do in the future? Do you want to go back and work in the same market, or do you want to start something on your own? What's your thought on that?
That's a great question, actually. So my year in industry was fantastic, and I've learned so many new things. And definitely having the exposure in this corporate world, it's been a fantastic gain for me. But moving forward, I would literally like to have some time to focus on my own personal projects and starting the entrepreneurial life, I'd say. It's a bit daunting, but I'm so looking forward to it. So moving on, I'd definitely like to take with me all the skills I've had gained in my placement, and try to make a business on my own.
Do you recommend a placement here for a new student, a student that starts his university now?
Yes, I believe everybody who's done a placement, or the big majority, would recommend it. I think that's across the board, because it allows you to do a couple of things that you won't be able to do during the university. Because they're very different. I mean, university is great, and placement itself is great as well, because it allows you to have exposure to your corporate world. It allows you to like explore yourself and see if your idea of what your future career is gonna be is actually suited for yourself, because there are so many unknown variables that you're actually not aware of until you actually start your career. So, like looking in hindsight, I'll definitely recommend doing a placement, and it will definitely be a good developing. It's gonna be a good development opportunity for yourself, and also, and quite important, it's gonna allow you to extend your year in university and gain a bit of experience and gain a bit of like pocket money and do whatever you want. So definitely recommend it across all variables, definitely.